is be very, very, very careful. Be very, very, very hesitant, because one mistake like this, it can end up biting you in the butt in many, many different ways. So the short answer is probably not. You probably should never pay someone to help you with your podcast. Podcast Growth Nation, welcome back to another episode of Podcast Growth University, where we talk all things podcasting all the time. I hope you enjoyed the previous episode number 63, a common mistake that's hurting your chances of making money with your podcast. A very deep one, for sure. A lot of layers. Today, for episode number 64, should you ever pay someone to help you with your podcast? I've seen this very, very often in Facebook groups I've been in, but I've also seen the unfortunate byproducts of what we're going to talk about today. I recently saw someone post in a Facebook group, and they said, hey, I had someone from, I don't remember where it was. I had someone on the internet reach out to me. They DM'd me on Facebook. They emailed me, whatever it is, messaged me on LinkedIn, and they said, hey, I can help you promote your podcast. I'm a professional podcast promoter. And they asked the group, the Facebook group, they said, should I do this? What's the deal? I've never gotten this before. This was a relatively new podcaster. And everybody in the comments was like, oh my goodness, don't do this. It's a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea. And I'm glad they said that, because 99 times out of 100, it is a terrible idea. When somebody reaches out to you and says, I can help you with your podcast promotion, or I'm a promotion expert, or I can help you get to 100,000 downloads a month, a year, a day, whatever it is, 99 times out of 100, it's absolute garbage. It's BS. And what they're going to do is you're basically paying for them to get bots to listen to your podcast, which screws it up royally. So there are several podcasts I have worked with in the past where there's one specific one. I started working with them, and when I work with someone, they give me the credentials to log into their podcast host, or they share a user access so I can look at the stats. And I was looking at their stats, and this was someone who was very consistent. They had a lot of episodes, but there was this giant bump where they went from averaging maybe 1,000 downloads a month to averaging 40,000 downloads a month. And I said, hey, I need you to be very, very honest with me if I'm going to be able to coach you at any level. What happened here? And this person said, oh, I paid someone to promote my podcast, and it looks like we had some pretty good traction. And I said, okay, let me look into the data. Let me look into the analytics. And upon further review, what happened was what I just explained. They got taken advantage of, and they paid somebody to promote their podcast, when in reality, they just got a bunch of bots to listen to their podcast. Now, you might say, maybe there's a piece of you right now that's like, well, I don't know, would I pay $500 for 150,000 listens? A big reason why this is dangerous is because it screws up so many of your analytics. It screws up so much of your statistics. So think about what helps a podcast get on the charts. Well, one of the things is subscribers, and the other thing is consumption rate. So if none of those people subscribe to the show, that's not going to help you that much. And it's going to bomb your consumption rate if the bots are only quote unquote listening to the show for a minute. So say you got 1,000 listens to your latest episode, but everybody only listened to 1 minute. You're probably going to have I don't even know what that would be. Maybe a 1% or 2% consumption rate. That's not going to be good for you. That's brutal. That's not going to be good at all. That's going to tank. So you're probably never going to end up on the charts. And it's going to be very hard for you to rebuild after that organically. Here's the other thing. When that gets done, it's very hard for you to take any data from your show, because all of those numbers are fake. So we don't know if the person really liked that title. It really kind of makes you start over from the standpoint of data, because all of that data is just not usable because none of it's real. So be very, very, very careful. If anybody ever reaches out to you and they say, hey, I am a professional podcast promoter, especially if they don't have a podcast, that's one thought. I would never work with a coach who doesn't do what you do, or a promoter, or whatever it is. And especially if it's wildly affordable. If somebody's telling you they can get you X amount of downloads, you'd expect it to be pretty expensive because it's going to take a lot of work. If it's like $150 for 15,000 downloads, it's probably not real. It's most likely not real. And you can carry this over into almost anything, not just podcasting, but social media services, a lot of stuff. It's very easy to promise something and not deliver it. It's very easy to promise something and not deliver it. So short answer, no. I would never pay someone to help you with podcast promotion. Now, should you have a virtual assistant? Sure. Should you have a producer? Sure. If you're at that place, sure. Makes sense. But just make sure you vet whoever it is that you're working with. And if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. And I would absolutely hate for you to get taken advantage of, because if you were to get taken advantage of, you might have to start over. Not completely, but it's going to feel like it. You're going to get all the good feelings of getting 15,000 downloads a month, and you're going to be back down to 1,000 or whatever it is. The data is going to be all skewed, and you're going to know that none of those were real. And that's very disheartening. That's very disheartening.
Hi, my name's John Laurito, and I just wanted to give a big shout out to Kevin Palmieri. I had reached out to him. He had been referred to me when I had shared with a friend of mine some interest in doing a podcast, and he said, "You've got to use Kevin. He's fantastic. He's the best around. He'll get you started and off the ground and soaring high in no time." And take it from somebody who knows nothing about podcasting other than maybe saying a few things. But as far as behind the scenes, the startup, everything, I knew nothing. Kevin was phenomenal in terms of leading me through the whole process, and not just easy to work with, but really, really knows his stuff. A great combination between leading me through all the stuff I had no idea what I was doing, but also really listening to me and understanding what it was I was trying to accomplish and what my vision is. So whether you're looking for somebody to help you and get you started, or somebody, as I've done, where I'm putting it entirely in his hands because I've got total trust and confidence in him, and he is a true pro and easy to work with, any of those ends of the spectrum, you're going to have a lot of success and a lot of fun working with Kevin. Trust me. Thanks.
I had a client who did that recently, and they didn't tell me until after. I really wish they would have told me before. But they said, yeah, I had somebody who reached out and they said they were going to help me promote the podcast. And this is what I did. And I said, you got ripped off. You got ripped off. You know how I know? Because the second you stop paying them, you go back down to the amount of downloads you had before. Makes sense in terms of the monthly, right? So if you were at 1,000 downloads per month, then you went up to 15,000 downloads a month. Then you said, hey, this is really working. I feel like I can handle this on my own. And then you stopped paying that person. It goes down to 1,000 downloads a month again, if not lower, most likely, because you're not focusing on growth. You're not necessarily out there building relationships. You're getting more listens. So you're probably thinking whatever you're doing is working. So that's another unfortunate byproduct, is it gives this giant spike in listens that isn't real. Here's the other thing. If you ever do want to do ads or sponsorships or affiliates, and the people that are offering that to you say, yeah, just send us a breakdown of your listens month over month, give us all the data, they're going to see that for March, April, and May, you had 15,000 downloads per month, but all the other ones you had 1,000. They're not going to give you any money. They're not going to want to do any sponsorships or ads with you. They're not going to want to advertise, because it's a sketchy look. They want to make sure that what they're advertising is actually getting seen by real eyes, right? The last thing you want to do is pay somebody however much it is and then get viewed by 100,000 bots and no people. So should you work with someone? Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that can help you. Again, social media managing, that type of stuff. As long as you vet them, yes. But if it seems too good to be true, be very careful. And oftentimes from what I've seen, it's usually someone in another country that reaches out, because I get this all the time. I mean, at this point, I have two podcasts, and this is like a weekly occurrence where I get an email that says, hey, I noticed this, your show should be whatever, higher in the charts or whatever. I can help you do that. you don't have a podcast, my friend, and I've been doing this a lot longer than you. I know you can't help me. That's not the way it works. So be very careful of those. Emails, be very careful. You'll probably get a ton of emails from people saying, I noticed, I really love your Instagram page. You should really be getting more traction. Let us help you get traction. Can they help you? Maybe. But I'm very hesitant about getting cold messages like that because I don't know you. I don't trust you. And here's the other thing. When I go to your Instagram profile, you have 13 posts, but you have 100,000 followers. Those are all bought too. So that's another conversation to have. So this episode literally could be, should you ever pay someone to help you with your digital brand? Because there's a lot of people out there taking advantage of people. I don't want that to happen to you. Now, if the person's vetted, they get referred to you, that's a different story. And I'm sure there are people out there. But if it seems too good to be true, if the person's not doing what they're trying to help you do, I don't know if I would ever go to a personal trainer who's never been to the gym. Doesn't really seem to land. I don't know if I would take flight lessons from somebody who's never flown a plane. Going to be a pass. I don't know if I'm ever going to take flight lessons anyway. So that's the goal in this episode. That's the jam. That's the lesson, is be very, very, very careful. Be very, very, very hesitant, because one mistake like this, it can end up biting you in the butt in many, many different ways. So the short answer is probably not. You probably should never pay someone to help you with your podcast. And here's the thing, and I have a client that does this, and this is a really good idea. He says, yeah, if you help me get X result, then I'll pay you. If it's so good that you're telling me it's going to work, get me the result, and then I'm more than willing to pay and then sign up for it after. So that is a good little way to kind of nip that in the bud, as they say. Say, yeah, sure. If you can get me 15,000, and again, even that I wouldn't do, but there are other circumstances where somebody says, I can do your videos for you, whatever it may be. Yeah, let me get a trial, and if it's to my liking, I'm happy to pay you for it. So that is a way around it. Next week, my friends, for episode number 65, the best way to schedule your recordings so you never miss an episode. So I've never missed a Podcast Growth U episode. We're 65 in. Alan and I at Next Level U, when we partnered up and we really started taking it seriously, we never missed an episode after then. I don't know how many we've done in a row without missing. At least 1,000. I don't know. It's probably way more than that. It's probably closer to 1,200 or 1,300, honestly. But there's a reason why. And it's not just discipline. A lot of it is discipline. But the 2 Ds of consistency are discipline and design. So how do we design your schedule to ensure that you don't miss an episode? We will go into that for our next episode, episode number 65. If you actually want someone to help you with your podcast for free, you don't have to pay me anything. It's a free call. Click the link in the show notes, and I am happy to hop on a free Zoom with you, 30 minutes. If I don't have another call after, it might go over. Oftentimes that does happen, but we can look at the analytics. We can talk about podcast titles, whatever it is. It can be an episode that we recorded here that you wanted to go deeper on. Whatever it is, I'm an open book. I'm always happy to jam on it. So link will be in the show notes. I would love to chat with you. Meeting the members of Podcast Growth Nation is something I plan on doing for the foreseeable future. And again, the fact that I get to podcast about podcasting is super weird for me. So anything I can do to add value, I'm always in for. I appreciate you all. As always, I hope your listens are going up. I hope you feel more comfortable in front of the mic, in front of the camera, with your guest interviews, being on other shows, with your solo episodes. I hope the people in your life are treating you like a podcaster and not laughing at you saying, wow, that's a cute hobby. And I hope you have your head up, you got some momentum, and you're building confidence. That is what I hope for you all. Podcast Growth Nation. I will talk to you all next week. Have a wonderful week.